Hello everybody, I'm TychoCelchuuu, and this is a Company of Heroes 2 Shoutcast. So this Company of Heroes 2 Shoutcast is going to be different from normal ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the basics of the game for people who don't know what Company of Heroes 2 is about. So that's going to be basically two sections. First, I'm going to explain the basics of just Company of Heroes 2 if you've never played Company of Heroes or even many real-time strategy games. And also I'm going to explain the main differences between this game and the original Company of Heroes, so for returning vets. If you just want to jump straight into it and watch some real shoutcasts, you don't want like the basics explained to you, then go check out the other videos I will be uploading soon or already on my channel. But so this is a game, just a match between me on auto match. This is me, TychoCelchuuu, as the Russians, and some guy named Ian as the Germans. Unfortunately, it's not a good game. I wanted to get a good game with me playing for this basic explanation video, but everybody's a noob right now, and I can't get matched up against people who are any good, so this is going to be kind of a crummy game, but that's alright. We're just explaining the basics. So the very basics of Company of Heroes. It's a real-time strategy game. The goal is to win by depleting your opponent's victory points. So up here we have these two bars. They're kind of hard to read because that's how this game works. We both have 500 victory points, and you want your opponent to get to 0. You get your opponent down to 0 by capturing these star locations on the map. The entire map is divided up into sectors and territories, and these victory points are what you capture. If you hold the majority of them, you start ticking down. The way to get resources is to capture 3 types of points on the map. Strategic points, or standard territory points, I guess they're called. These give you 3 fuel, 5 munitions. We'll talk about resources in a sec. Munitions points, these give you munitions, and fuel points, these give you fuel. And you can see them on the map. Munitions look like this. Fuel looks like this, standard points look like this. And so you capture them just by moving units into the area around the point and standing there for a while. They'll raise the flag and then it's yours. You need your territory to be connected. So if I want to get fuel from this fuel point, I need it to be connected via this territory point back to my base, or maybe via these 2 territory points back to my base, or something like that. That's how you get your resources. Down here we see the 3 kinds of resources. We have manpower, that's for building basically everything, and you get it by capturing any, or no, you don't, sorry, that was the original Company of Heroes. So here's a change. In the original Company of Heroes, you got manpower by capturing these points. In this new Company of Heroes 2, you get 300 manpower per minute forever, no matter what you do. You can be a massive fuck up and they'll still give you a giant check for 300 manpower per minute, but this will go down as you start to build units. You'll get upkeep, and once you reach, I believe, 25 is when you start getting the first upkeep, so we'll talk about that when I hit that. So there's 300 manpower per minute forever. Here's my munitions income, plus 16. Here's my fuel income, plus 10. That's how much I'm getting for having captured the points. And then this is your pop cap. You have 100 pop cap. That's another change from the original Company of Heroes. It used to be your pop cap was determined by how many points you held on the map. Now it's just 100 forever, because fuck pop cap, whatever, we don't care. That's not a game mechanic anymore. So that's the basics of Company of Heroes 2. Capture points around the map for resources, capture the victory points to tick your opponent's points down, and win. And so now we come to the combat. The combat is infantry and vehicle combat, along with weapons teams and stuff, and it's very mobile. So you're pretty much always on the move. Actually, up here we're seeing something interesting. My opponent is setting up this machine gun, and it can only fire in this arc that you see in these yellow lines once it's set up. So if I keep my unit moving around behind his machine gun, he'll have to set up, and if he can't set up and get me caught in the arc, then he'll just have to run away. So retreating is a big mechanic in Company of Heroes. When your units are fighting, anytime you want, you can select them and hit the R button, retreat, and then they'll run automatically back to the HQ. And when they get back to the HQ, your squad can reinforce. Each squad has a number of people, so like my conscript squad has 6 people, this pioneer squad up here has 4 people, and when they lose people, you can retreat them back to the HQ, reinforce them for fairly cheap. This costs, well, it doesn't tell us how much it costs, because whatever, this is broken, but it's much, much cheaper than building a new unit if you just reinforce it back at your base. So retreating is very important, and it'll get you out of sticky situations. The infantry combat is based around suppression and cover. So if this machine gun's team gets set up and starts firing at me, my units will get suppressed and then pinned. When they're suppressed, they can't move, and when they're pinned, they can't shoot or move. So that sucks for me. So the goal is to stay out of the arcs of machine gun firing. And then you can also get your units into cover. So whenever they get behind like this truck, for instance, or this hay bale, they get this little green shield. That means they'll be in green cover. It's very good cover. There's also yellow cover, which like behind this fence, for instance, and red cover, like this road, which is negative cover. So here you see I'm suppressed. This little, very hard to see flashing yellow thing now changed to a flashing red thing, which means I'm pinned. Those guys are just boned. They're going to sit there and get shot forever. The only reason I'm letting my units get pinned here, yeah, this machine gun in the building, is because I have this other squad shooting into the building, and this other squad shooting into the building. So you can crew units in buildings, and this gives them a lot of survivability, especially compared to the original Company of Heroes. If you remember the original Company of Heroes, you could still shoot people in buildings. This is gonna take me ever to kill this Pioneer squad, machine gun squad in there. So I'm mostly just doing this as a demonstration. If this were a real game, it would not make sense for me to waste so many units firing at this building for like 20 minutes. I should just retreat a bit back, because I own basically the entire map, so it's okay for me to give up a bit of the map. Here's a sniper. A sniper is cool because he'll fire and kill people whenever he fires. When most units shoot, they'll take points off the health bar, and eventually when the health gets low enough on each individual dude, they'll die. So I know it looks like they just have one big health bar, but actually each individual person has individual health. You just can't see it because, like, whatever, we're not going to tell you. But a sniper will typically kill people in one hit, and so he's cool, but he has very little health, and he can cloak, but only while he's in cover. So that's a change from the original Company of Heroes. Your snipers can cloak in cover. What else is different from the original? So that's actually the basics of infantry combat. Tank combat is, well, I don't know. If you've never played Company of Heroes, tanks drive around and they have weaker rear armor and stronger front armor, so the goal is to hit the opponent in the rear. Infantry basically can't damage tanks. Sometimes they'll have certain abilities. So for instance, my conscript squad, let's swap over to me. My conscript squad has this RPG anti-tank grenade that I've researched, so I can throw these at tanks and that'll damage them. You can damage tanks, damage their engine, and damage their guns and stuff. Those happen basically randomly when you're fighting them. And then to repair the tanks, you'll just take your builder unit, so your pioneer squad or your engineer squad, and repair them. Each unit, well, most units can get upgrades, or many units can get upgrades. So there are two kinds of upgrades. There's upgrades you research sort of back at your HQ. So for instance, I researched Molotovs and anti-tank grenades for my conscripts. And I also researched medics back here, and my medics will heal my people. Look at those medics. And you can also research things for specific units, and that's not really researching, it's buying stuff. So for example, I bought this combat engineer a flamethrower. I purchased that over here, so now they can roast people. We have also, when units fight, they earn veterancy. This little yellow bar is veterancy experience. You get a ton of veterancy for getting shot at. You get a bit of veterancy for killing people, and it looks like you also get veterancy just for like hanging around and doing nothing, because I feel like that bar is going up. Maybe being in snow gives you veterancy. But we see here, this unit is veterancy level 1. You see this little star here. And veteran level 1 unlocks tripwire flares. I don't know what those do. We'll learn that later. Right now, though, it's snowing. Look at this. Whoa, you can't see anything, can you? This is a blizzard, one of the new mechanics added in Company of Heroes 2. Every once in a while, the game will be like, fuck everything, let's have a blizzard. It'll make it super hard to see anything. It lowers the sight range for all your units. And it also makes people start freezing. You see this little temperature bar. As this drops, when it gets to 0, a little skull will show up here and my people will start dying. If you hang out around a fire, you'll be fine. So now you see they're by a fire and the red is going up, so that's good. One of the new changes they made in Company of Heroes 2 is the fog of war is very different. So you see this, well, this isn't actually a perfect example. Oh, those guys were freezing. See, they're freezing. There's this little skull. If I don't get them to a fire fast, they'll die. So fog of war now works more realistically. Like if you played Men of War or anything, it works like that. So I cannot see sort of beyond this building, even if I have sort of the sight range. Like if I have a unit standing here, normally their sight would be like this, but buildings and stuff will block it. So you can sort of see my sight curving around this tank a bit. It's called True Sight, which is Relic's name for we're just doing what Men of War has always done. And maybe this will be easier if we swap over to my opponent. No, it's not. Well, you can't see beyond this rock. So that's True Sight, and that's one of the changes. It makes it easier to flank people, basically. And flanking is a very important maneuver in Company of Heroes. You want to get around people. And the reason nothing is happening right now is because my opponent and I are talking. I'm giving him tips how to play better. You cannot see chat on replays because Relic, I don't know. And that's the basics. So you tech up by building buildings in your base. It costs fuel, basically, to tech up. And munitions are usually spent on unit upgrades, so buying the flamethrower costs munitions, and also on using abilities. So those grenades I researched for my units, this costs 15 munitions to throw a Molotov cocktail, costs 25 to throw an anti-tank grenade, and those are just on cooldowns, so you never run out of these unless you run out of munitions. Each side can choose commanders, so I already chose mine, so we missed it. But in the original Company of Heroes, you would choose one of 3 commanders, and then you would sort of unlock down various tech trees, depending on your choices. In Company of Heroes 2, you just choose your commander, and then the game will give you all these things and unlock them automatically as this fills up. These are your command points. You get these for killing people and building stuff, and basically anything you do in the game gives you command points. And so as you get these things will unlock. When I get 4 command points, right now I'm at 2, when I get 4, I'll be able to build a howitzer on the map. When I got 6, I'll be able to call in a strafing run. But I've made it to 2 command points, and I can purchase PPSH-41 submachine guns for my conscripts, so that's cool. And I just used the Ura ability that makes them run faster and nothing else. I think it says improves combat effectiveness, not so sure about that one. But that costs 5 munitions. So pretty much all the abilities are on cooldowns. They cost munitions. Teching up costs fuel. Buying the more advanced units, so if I wanted to buy a T-34 tank, this would cost 75 fuel. Better tanks are even more expensive for fuel. One of the changes from the original Company of Heroes, if you have multiple units in the capture zone, this will capture faster. In the original Company of Heroes, you would just have to click and capture things with 1 unit, and that's the best you could do. So that's the end of the game, I think. No, actually it's still going on, but those are the basics of Company of Heroes. It's a very mobile game. You get out on the field, capture these sorts of things, capture your resources, capture your victory points, pin your opponent in. Normally when you're fighting someone, they're going to put up more of a fight than this guy. And tech up by building buildings in your base. These will unlock new units, so I can build like a machine gun squad or a mortar or an anti-tank gun. I can build a half-track, a T-70 light tank, a T-34. And that is how the game works. It's fun. I think it's maybe not as great as the original Company of Heroes, but we will talk about those in games to come. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the game, the very basics, and perhaps if Company of Heroes 2 takes off, I'll be making more extensive tutorials in the future. But for now, I leave you with this image of my cold little men and their cold little guns shivering themselves to death.